At the Lair Citadel, a holy place buzzing with kids waiting for their special gifts, Rina is super curious about what she might get. She turns to Kai, who's looking a bit nervous, and asks if he's excited. He admits he's feeling a little pumped, but it's been on his mind since yesterday, and he's clearly stressing out. Seeing him freak out, Rina decides to wander off, leaving Kai alone to soak in the moment. Today is the day he'll finally get his own gift. In this world, when you hit 13, you receive a blessing from the gods, which can be anything from weapon skills to magic powers. Rina dreams of being a princess, but she wouldn't mind being a rabbit either. Kai jokes that she's not princess material, but she's cute enough. When she asks what gift he wants, he says a sword would be cool, but deep down, he knows that's not true. His grandpa is the only one who really wants him to take over the family sword dojo, but Kai secretly wishes for a gift that lets him go on adventures and become a great hunter like his mom. Hunters explore the wild and fight monsters, and that's what he really wants to do. He worries he's not good enough with a sword and feels like he's not as smart as others. Suddenly, a loud cheer breaks his thoughts. Lila, a girl from a famous sword dojo, comes running up all excited. She just got a gift called Sword Expert. Kai knows she's the one he'll be competing against in the future, and their parents have already decided they're engaged, which is a bit awkward. Just then, Roman, Kai's relative, shows up and brags about his own gift, Spear King, but Lila doesn't seem too impressed since she already knew. A member of the Holy King's Paladins arrives to talk to Lila about her gift. She downplays it, but the Paladin praises her hard work and wants her to join their ranks. Kai thinks Lila is amazing and encourages her to go. After she leaves, Keith, another friend, apologizes for Roman's over-the-top behavior. Rina's turn comes up next, and the priest is shocked when she receives the Swordmaster gift. The guards start chatting about how everyone is getting these powerful gifts, wondering if it's a sign of trouble ahead. After shushing them, the priest calls Kai forward. He asks for Kai's name and tells him to touch the crystal. As soon as Kai does, he feels a heavy weight, and the crystal's light fades. The priest looks shocked and tells Kai he's received the most useless gift ever. Fast forward a bit, and Kai is now in a practice duel with Roman. Everyone is cheering for Roman, reminding him that he's up against the most incompetent fighter. Kai struggles to keep up and ends up getting knocked down, feeling like a total loser. Just when he's about to pass out, Lila appears, helping him back up. He can't help but stare at her, feeling a mix of admiration and embarrassment. She puts some medicine on his forehead, and Kai reflects on how his life has taken a nosedive since he got that gift. His physical abilities are weaker than those of kids who haven't trained at all. People avoid him, and even strangers bully him for no reason. The only ones who still treat him well are Lila and a few others. His engagement with Lila ended the day he got his gift, and now he feels like a nobody, but he's getting used to it. Lila asks if he's heading to the royal capital soon, and he agrees, saying it's tough to stay in Lammer. He hopes he'll be treated better there. She wonders if he's looking for a job, but he says he's planning to go to a nearby city where people don't have gifts, thinking he might find work there. He promises to write her letters, but she says it's not necessary and rushes off to pack her things. Kai decides to talk to his grandpa, but bumps into Roman on the way. Roman reminds Kai that he's got the Spear King gift, and since Kai isn't engaged to Lila anymore, he thinks he's the right guy for her. Kai, however, believes Lila should make her own choices, which makes Roman question if he really thinks Lila would pick someone as useless as him. Kai stands his ground, saying his feelings for Lila are different, and he's not worried about Roman's claims. Before Roman can dig deeper, his teacher calls him back for practice, cutting their chat short. As Kai walks away, he thinks of Lila more like his sister, and regrets not telling Roman that. Later, he finds his grandpa, who apologizes for all the trouble Kai's been through. When Kai asks what he means, his grandpa brings up the canceled engagement and how he had to leave home. To his grandpa's surprise, Kai says it doesn't bother him because he's always seen Lila as a sister. Plus, going to the royal capital has been a dream of his. This makes his grandpa laugh, saying Kai's perspective has changed for the better. He reassures Kai that no matter what gift he has, he's still family and always welcome back. When Kai mentions he probably won't return, his grandpa insists he wants to see him from time to time. With that, his grandpa gets ready to leave, reminding Kai to take care of himself, and Kai agrees. With everything sorted, Kai packs his bag, excited to head to Babel, the hub for aspiring hunters, where he hopes to chase his dreams. He sets off to find the carriage station, thinking it should be just around the corner. Suddenly, a fancy carriage pulls up, and he wonders who could be inside. To his surprise, a striking woman steps out and asks if he's Kai. She introduces herself as Rosemary, and he remembers that name belongs to the priestess of the Emilia Kingdom. Before he can respond, she says she'll be traveling with him to the royal capital and asks him to call her Rose, which he reluctantly agrees to. Out of nowhere, her maid starts glaring at Kai and grabs him by the collar, calling him an incompetent brat and questioning his manners. Rosemary quickly scolds her maid, reminding her that she wanted to travel with Kai and that her behavior reflects poorly on both of them. The maid apologizes, and the carriage driver explains that her actions were out of loyalty. Then, Rosemary unexpectedly slaps herself hard, shocking Kai, and while bleeding from her mouth, she asks if they should get going. Kai wonders if all nobles are a bit off their rockers, but is grateful to his grandpa for arranging the ride. He can't help but worry about how he'll fit in with these people. Later, they stop at a camp, and Kai waits in line for food. When it's his turn, the chief hands him a loaf of bread, saying it's all he gets because of Sir Franken's orders. Kai remembers his grandpa saying all travel costs were covered, so he wonders if food is extra. Just then, a big guy bumps into him on purpose, making Kai drop his only loaf of bread. Before he can react, the guy starts yelling at him, blaming him for the collision. He kicks Kai in the stomach and keeps going. Suddenly, Rosanna shows up and tells the guy to stop. This only makes him angrier, and he questions if she's protecting Kai. Rosanna replies she's just following Rosemary's orders. Then, the sound of a sword hitting the ground catches everyone's attention, and the big guy backs off. Kai breathes a sigh of relief, but when he tries to thank Rosanna, she walks away, saying she wouldn't have helped if it weren't for Rosemary. As they pass each other, Rosanna and the big guy exchange greetings. The big guy approaches Kai, saying one of his men caused trouble. To Kai's surprise, he starts bowing, claiming his subordinate's rudeness is his fault. Kai points out that people from the capital and Emilia Kingdom see him as someone cursed by fate. This makes the big guy decide to bring Kai his meals from now on. When Kai tries to decline, the guy insists that young people like him should be more straightforward. Afterward, he takes Kai to the head chef and confronts him about his earlier behavior. The head chef tries to explain that Frankton ordered him to serve less food, but Arnold isn't having it. He grabs the chef by the collar and demands that he prepare a proper meal for Kai. The chef, clearly scared, quickly tells his staff to whip up a feast for Kai. Soon enough, Kai is handed a huge pile of food. When he tries to thank Arnold, he's told that this is what he deserves and that he should eat well to grow strong. With that, Arnold walks off to chat with Frankton and his crew, leaving Kai stunned that there are actually decent people out there. 3 days pass, and Kai finds himself getting loads of food again, with everyone making sure not to bump into him this time. That night, as he lies in his tent, he wonders how Keith and Rena are doing. He remembers that Keith went to the royal capital to study, while Rena joined a heroes party to take down the Demon King. Suddenly, Rosemary pops up outside his tent and asks if she can come in. He lets her in, feeling a bit awkward and wondering if this is a friends with benefits situation. He's also worried that people might give him a hard time for being seen with her. Before he can ask anything, she apologizes, catching him off guard. Rosemary explains that she heard about what the knights did to him. Kai brushes it off, saying it's in the past, but Rosemary insists she feels bad because she asked his grandpa to let her travel with him. This makes Kai curious about why she wanted to be with him. She reveals that she's friends with Rena and Keith, which surprises Kai. He learns that Keith is the apprentice of the head court magician, who is also Rosemary's mentor, and that Rena is her best friend. Hearing that Rosemary is learning magic makes Kai wonder if she's the priestess he's heard about, but he quickly dismisses the thought. He asks if Rena and Keith have talked about him, and she confirms that Rena mentions him a lot, even saying she might know more about him than Keith does. Rosemary wanted to meet him after hearing so much about him. Kai then asks if Rina is doing well with the hero team, and she assures him that everyone loves having her around because she's so cheerful. Their chat is interrupted when Rosanna enters the tent, reminding Rosemary that it's getting late. Realizing she lost track of time, Rosemary decides to head back. Kai thanks her for the conversation, and she says she enjoyed it too, hinting that she'd like to talk again. As he settles down to sleep, he's interrupted by Arnold, who barges in to thank him. Kai is confused since he hasn't done anything special, but Arnold insists on thanking him for talking to Rosemary. Kai tells him to stop bowing and that he should be thanking Rosemary instead. Arnold then shares that he also received a weak gift, which is why he understands Kai's struggles. He encourages Kai to keep pushing forward because hard work will pay off. Meanwhile, in the forest, two shady characters are hanging out when Frankton shows up. He asks them about their progress, and one of them, a skeleton guy, assures him that all the best summoners are in place, ready to go. Frankton praises the skeleton named Entz and asks about Rosemary's movements. He mentions that she was chatting with Kai, who is now asleep. Frankton plans to create a distraction to separate Arnold from Rosemary. Another guy, Signal, chimes in, saying that if it weren't for Rosemary, Gilbert would be on the throne. He mocks Frankton for trying to betray the royal family he serves. Frankton gets angry, telling Signal he doesn't understand the country's politics. He insists they're not betraying Rosemary, but want to use her to their advantage. After a heated exchange, Frankton decides to head back to camp and start the operation, reminding them he's counting on them. As he walks back, Frankton thinks it's time to drive the princess out of her homeland. He believes that with the strongest assets on his side, he can't fail, especially since Rosemary poses a threat to the noble orders he's been protecting. He vows to get the job done and pledges his loyalty to Prince Gilbert. Meanwhile, Kai steps out of his tent, regretting not using the bathroom before bed. He thinks about going nearby but doesn't want anyone to see him. He wanders far enough away and finds a good spot, only to notice someone already standing there. It's Signal, and they both stare at each other, making Kai wonder why he's here, since he wasn't in the carriage. Signal starts thinking deeply, realizing there was nothing about Kai in the report. He figures as long as Kai doesn't interfere with their plans, a little fun wouldn't hurt. Kai senses something is off, and Signal warns him to run if he can. Suddenly, Signal snaps his fingers. As Kai runs for his life, he starts to feel like he can't breathe, and his body is giving out on him. He begs for his useless gift to just disappear so he can run faster. He can hear the monsters closing in behind him, and he can't help but wonder why he's always the target. He blames his gift for all the trouble he's in. He stumbles but quickly gets back up, pushing himself to keep going. He thinks about all the times his cursed gift has caused him pain. He wishes he had received a swordsmanship gift instead. At least then he could have taken over the dojo, married Lila, and stayed friends with Rina and Keith. Dying alone in a dark forest is the last thing he wants. After running for a while, he finds himself at a waterfall with no way to escape. He thinks this might be the end for him. Just then, he spots a light shining through the waterfall. With the monsters right on his tail, he decides to jump through the waterfall, desperate to avoid dying in such a place. Inside, he discovers a massive empty room that looks like a desert, with sunlight streaming in, which confuses him since it was nighttime in the forest. Soon after he enters, the way he came in disappears. Instead of panicking, he starts laughing, relieved to have escaped the monsters. He wonders if this cave is some kind of trap and notices a building nearby. Wanting to rest in the shade, he steps inside, only to find it's a temple. Inside, there's an altar with a spot for his handprint. Even though he can't read the writing on it, he decides to place his hand on the altar. As soon as he does, all the crystals in the room start glowing, and a system window pops up. It verifies his gifts and states that he holds a gift ranked above Divine Tier, leaving him confused and thinking it must be a mistake. The system welcomes him to the trials of the gods. When he clicks the Proceed button, a new window appears, explaining the rules of this place. He realizes he's in a dungeon, a place usually cleared by top hunters, and if he goes outside, there will be monsters ready to attack him. Panic sets in, but he takes a deep breath and tries to think clearly. He remembers he has 5 items granted to him and makes the first one appear: an item box. Inside he finds 2 items, escape shoes and an indestructible stick. He decides to try on the escape shoes, but when he thinks about putting them back, they vanish. Next, he says storage, and the item box shows what's inside, making him feel like he's got a rare treasure. Now it's time to check out the 4th item, which is an appraisal skill. He uses the appraisal skill on the escape shoes and learns they increase his chances of escaping from enemies. This makes him wonder if they're a national treasure level item. Curious, he decides to appraise himself and discovers that his gift is indeed divine ranked. He learns that under certain conditions, it can exceed all limits in any category. Realizing this just means that hard work pays off. He sets that thought aside and remembers the 3rd item, an elixir. Looking around the room, he finds an elixir spring, which surprises him since he expected it to be in a bottle. To test it out, he cuts his hand with a knife and dips it into the elixir. To his amazement, the elixir heals his wound instantly. With the item box, the appraisal skill, and the elixir skill, he starts to think he might actually have a shot at becoming a hunter if he reports this to the Hunter Guild. Feeling more prepared, Kai gets ready to escape this place. With that in mind, Kai starts moving deeper into the dungeon, sticking close to the wall, like he read in the Hunter Manual. He believes he can make it through this place. As he continues, he reaches a point where the wall ends, leaving him unsure of which way to go. Suddenly, he spots a monster gnawing on its own arm, completely unfazed. Panic sets in as he realizes he's in danger, and he tries to pull away from the creature. The monster tightens its grip, and in a desperate move, Kai ends up losing his arm. Without thinking, he bolts back toward the room he came from, racing straight for the elixir. Once there, he takes a moment to collect himself, remembering that he was on his way to the capital when he ran into that red-handed guy. After catching his breath, he recalls that the grasshopper monster got his right arm. Thankfully, the elixir heals his injury, and he feels a wave of relief wash over him, grateful to have escaped the monster again. Even though his arm is healed, his shirt is still stained with blood, reminding him that everything he went through was real. He knows he has to go back into the dungeon to escape. He got lucky this time, but next time, the grasshopper might make him its dinner. Frustrated, Kai starts to cry, wondering why he always has to face such tough situations. It's been 7 days since he entered the temple, and he's running out of food. The only thing he can find to eat is bugs on the ground, but when he checks them out, he discovers they're poisonous enough to take down a dragon, even though they're nutritious. Deciding against eating them for now, he waits. Days turn into 15, and he finally comes up with a plan. He drinks a lot of elixir to be safe, and then decides to eat one of the poisonous bugs without thinking twice. He pops it in his mouth, and his vision starts to turn red, making him wonder if this is the end. Just then, a notification pops up, telling him he's gained a new skill, leaving him confused about why he's still alive. Another message appears, saying he's developed resistance to weak poison. Relieved that the elixir worked, he still feels incredibly nauseous. On top of that, he starts getting headaches and feeling dizzy. To help with that, he drinks more elixir, which eases his symptoms. Strangely, his stomach feels full, but he can't get too excited knowing he'll be eating bugs from now on. Fast forward to 100 days later, and he finally has total resistance to poison, meaning he can eat as many bugs as he wants without dying. A year passes, and Kai starts practicing swordsmanship to clear his mind. Before he knows it, a decade has gone by, and he's still at it. After hitting the 40-year mark, he begins to fight imaginary opponents, currently facing off against Roman. Without hesitation, he charges at Roman, and to his surprise, he manages to disarm him and win for the first time. Feeling accomplished, he thanks his imagination for the practice. He recalls that he's been winning more often in these virtual matches, even beating his master. All this training helps him gain a new skill that boosts his abilities in real sword fights. He realizes he's never heard of the Kyu swordsmanship that the system mentioned, noting it's just the first stage. Determined to level up, he keeps practicing. Fast forward 800 years, and Kai is now battling a master swordsman from Isabel, the strongest elf swordsman and former sword emperor of the GLT Near Empire. Now, after 1500 years, Kai stands confidently, calling out to all the legendary heroes, taunting them to come at him all at once. After 3,000 years, Kai finds himself facing the only opponent left, himself. As the strongest swordsman in the world, he's surpassed all others. The duel with himself kicks off, but soon he decides to explore a dungeon. Using his appraisal skill, he discovers that the grasshopper monster has unknown stats, which piques his interest. As he moves deeper, he encounters a mysterious enemy. Kai charges at the grasshopper, demanding it to show him the way. The monster tries to attack, but Kai easily dodges, mocking its weak moves. He lands a hit on its face, and when the grasshopper attempts to counter with a kick, Kai blocks it effortlessly. He sighs, wondering if this is all the monster can do, and decides to show it something special. Kai unleashes a new technique called Brink of Death, slicing the grasshopper into pieces. Disappointed by the lack of challenge, he notices a notification that his status improves with each enemy defeated. Looking at the grasshopper's remains, he thinks swinging a sword would have been more satisfying. As he goes deeper into the dungeon, he realizes it's getting wider, and the toxic bugs he was eating are gone. He considers heading back to the surface, but decides against it, and munches on the grasshopper instead. After descending a few more floors, he encounters a new monster, the killer hornet. Kai figures that a powerful enemy appears every 10 floors, and he's excited for the challenge. Just as he's getting bored, the hornet lunges at him with incredible speed, ripping off his arm. Instead of panicking, Kai feels a rush of delight from the pain and charges at the hornet, eager for a real fight. The hornet disappears and strikes again, but this time Kai tracks its movement and dodges. He notices the hornet's pattern, realizing it trembles before launching its attack. Suddenly, the hornet sprays poison everywhere. Instead of dodging, Kai focuses and uses a technique called Moon Mirror, wrapping the poison around his weapon and throwing it back at the hornet, which he thinks is finished. But the hornet keeps coming, impressing Kai with its persistence. Acknowledging the hornet as a worthy opponent, he uses another technique called Lightning Strike, piercing through the hornet's body. After the hornet finally falls, a notification pops up, revealing a reward. A rusty treasure chest appears, and inside, Kai finds a flame sword that ignites anything it touches. He's unsure about the sword since his rod works just fine, but he thinks it could be useful for roasting bugs later. As he descends further, he enters a room filled with lava. Excited by the challenge, he takes off his shoes and steps barefoot onto the lava. It's hotter than he expected, and he quickly heals his feet with an elixir. Trying again, he realizes he can withstand the heat for about 10 seconds. A pop-up window grants him heat resistance, which can be improved by exposing himself to heat 500 times after healing. Determined to max out his heat resistance, Kai keeps stepping on the lava. He encounters various floors with blazing magma, icy deserts, flooded rooms, wind blade zones, and lightning strike areas, making sure to boost his resistance each time. After reaching the 300th floor, Kai has built up resistance to all the challenges he faced, making him nearly unstoppable. He decides to move on to the next room and remembers the Thunder Beast gloves he picked up earlier, which he's been using to wipe his sweat. As he approaches the next staircase, he hears water and soon spots a beast called the Thunder Tiger King waiting for him. The system informs him that this is the final challenge of the upper levels. Just as the tiger prepares to attack, Kai swiftly cuts it into pieces with a single strike, using his ultimate sword technique, the Brink of Death. The system starts announcing his victory, but before it finishes, Kai notices giant fish swimming below. He thinks the fish look more interesting and jumps down into the water. Once he dives in, the fish notice him and charge at him. Kai doesn't hesitate and manages to slice through all the fish, realizing it wasn't the smoothest fight since it was his first underwater battle. After surfacing, He quickly realizes that getting back to the platform might be the toughest part of this floor. Once back on the platform, the system repeats its announcement about the special bonus. Noticing a stutter in the system's voice, Kai wonders if something's off, and the system hints that there's something strange about him. He then checks out a treasure chest he found inside one of the fish he defeated. He opens the smaller box first and finds a book called Magic Tome. He wonders if someone like him, who feels like he has the IQ of a soggy sock, can even learn magic. Still, he adds it to his inventory and opens the second box, discovering a mythical sword with an edge sharp enough to cut through lightning. The sword feels natural in his hands, reminiscent of the wooden swords from his dojo. After testing it out, he senses that this sword will be his new companion. Fast forward 17,600 years, and Kai finds himself in a dragon-infested area known as the Dragon Zone. He sees this as the perfect chance to test his new sword. He starts slashing through every dragon in his path, quickly realizing that the sword fits his fighting style perfectly. When he reaches the 350th floor, he encounters another dragon. This one is smaller than the others, but its eyes tell him it's much stronger. The system even starts cheering for him, and without wasting time, he lunges at the dragon to finish the fight quickly. However, after a while, he finds himself completely defeated and starts laughing at how badly he was beaten. He can't believe all his attacks were ineffective. Later, he heads to the elixir fountain to heal and comments on how strange it feels to have his flesh regenerate. He thinks about how to deal with the dragon's ability to nullify physical attacks and wonders if magic could be the answer. Remembering the magic book he received, he decides to check out the Introduction to Magic section. Unfortunately, he discovers that due to his blessing, he can't acquire magic normally. The only way for him to learn is to read the original text directly from the book. After taking a sip of the elixir, he sees a system notification informing him that he was feeling headaches and nausea from magic intoxication, but now he has developed a resistance to it. Now, 17,673 years have passed, and Kai has spent this time learning about magic. After about 60 years, he starts to grasp the basics. He learns that magic can be divided into general and special attributes. General attributes require innate talent, and without it, forming contracts is impossible. He also discovers non-attribute magic, which involves imbuing objects or living things with magic. Realizing that non-attribute magic only requires manipulating magic power, he thinks he can learn it. After crossing the 8,000-year mark, he understands that the human body is made up of tiny cells. He figures that magic techniques like body reinforcement and ultra regeneration target the entire tissue. If he can focus magic at the cellular level, he might be able to perform long-range attacks. To test this, he decides to fight another dragon. Grateful that the system recharges monsters over time, he prepares for battle. The dragon launches a fire attack, but Kai counters with body reinforcement called adamantine strength. He takes the fire head-on and realizes he doesn't even need to activate ultra regeneration. Next, he pulls out his katana and uses weapon reinforcement called demonic armament, imbuing his sword with non-attribute magic. Now, his sword acts as a magical blade that can cut through anything, even physical immunity. He apologizes to the dragon for what's about to happen and, with one strike, slices through the dragon, turning its upper half to dust. He realizes that other dragons, except for this one, can't even be used for practice anymore. Later, he tests a magic technique called Divine Eye, which gives him awareness of all monsters within a 500-meter range. This helps. Kai didn't care about anything else and pulled out his sword, telling Fafnir that he couldn't resist those eyes. He'd been waiting 3,500 years to see them again. With that, he charged at Fafnir, missing his first strike but causing massive destruction in the room. He then told Fafnir to take a good look at what he had accomplished just for him. Kai explained that for all those years, he had only thought about how to finally defeat Fafnir. He was so obsessed that he felt like he was losing his mind, and now wanted to see the dragon bleed. Just as he was about to attack again, Fafnir surrendered. Kai, acting like a total maniac, snapped back to reality and yelled at Fafnir, asking if he was serious. He tried to motivate Fafnir to fight harder, but the dragon insisted it was impossible. Kai reminded Fafnir that he had spent 3,500 years studying magic just to face him. Suddenly, a system notification popped up, announcing that the 8th trial was cleared because Fafnir had surrendered. Kai couldn't accept this and asked if the system could do anything about it, but it just told him it was over and that he had won, along with a special reward. The special reward turned out to be Fafnir wanting to join Kai's party, but looking at the crying dragon, Kai wasn't so sure. He wondered how such a huge creature could follow him and figured it would adapt. He was relieved that Fafnir could speak human language since he had been alone for 10,000 years. In the end, he accepted Fafnir into his party, and the dragon transformed into a little girl. After staring at her for a moment, he thought she might be a bit too small. Next, Kai put on his new gear, made from legendary dragon parts, which was said to last for hundreds of years. His old clothes had fallen apart, so he was grateful for the fresh outfit. Just then, Fafnir asked if she should burn his old clothes. Kai said no, and Fafnir warned him never to take them out again because of some embarrassing stains. He finally stored his old clothes in his item box and decided to head back to the ground floor to show Fafnir something. He had built a little hut for them using materials from the labyrinth. However, Fafnir didn't seem impressed. Kai reassured her that there was food to eat. He placed a piece of beef from the thunder ox in front of her, asking what she thought he was going to do with it. Fafnir wasn't a fan of his long-winded build-up. Finally, Kai pulled out the flame sword he had gotten earlier and sliced the piece of meat. It turned into a perfectly cooked steak, and he proudly told her it took him 10 years to master that skill. When Fafnir asks if she can eat the steak, Kai agrees, but mentions that the only seasoning they have is salt, which he collected from seawater on floors 170 to 180. Without hesitation, Fafnir starts chewing on Kai's arm instead of the meat. He reminds her that the beef is what she should be eating, but she doesn't care. Later, he gives her a bunch of meat while he drinks some elixir to heal his hand. Watching her eat with her hands, he shows her how to use a fork and encourages her to try it. Eating with someone feels strange to him, like something was missing. This moment makes his obsession with power fade away, and the thirst for blood that once consumed him disappears. After some time, they reach the 400th floor, and now 13 years have passed since the game started. They encounter a beast that looks like a mix between an elephant and a gorilla. Fafnir wonders why it has such a long nose, and Kai remembers seeing it in a book. He realizes it's called an elephant. The beast laughs and congratulates Kai for making it to this floor, introducing himself as Jerry McCullough, a true evil god. Kai asks Fafnir if she knows what that means and checks if she's done with her steak. Fafnir says she'll finish it later and pulls out a robotic arm, telling Jerry she's going to give him a good beating. Kai is surprised and asked where she learned to be so violent. Fafnir replies that she learned it from him. Deciding to step in, Kai tells Jerry that throwing his life away carelessly isn't smart and asks him to surrender. Jerry can't believe someone is telling him to surrender and reminds Kai that he serves the supreme god. He claims to be the first vassal with the highest rank among the gods, saying that even talking to him should be an honor for Kai. Kai, tired of Jerry's bragging, strikes him down with a single blow, turning him to ashes. He mentions that if Jerry hadn't refused, at least his bones would have been left. He remembers he was supposed to set an example, but Fafnir gets excited, thinking they should beat everyone up from now on. Kai tries to explain that it's not okay to be violent toward everyone, but Fafnir ignores him and asks for more food. Suddenly, he receives a reward called the Subjugation Encyclopedia. Confused about what it does, a pop-up appears, asking if he wants to save Jerry's soul in the encyclopedia. Fafnir almost presses the button, but Kai stops her just in time, telling her to press it the other way. Eventually, she hits the yes button, and the book glows, storing Jerry's information. Kai realizes he can summon monsters and decides to try completing the encyclopedia from the first floor again. They head back to the first floor since Fafnir is starving. Once they return to their hut, Kai prepares to summon Jerry McCullough, reminding Fafnir that it's the same monster he just defeated. He starts the summoning chant, and Jerry appears, looking confused. He wonders where he is until he sees Kai. Kai tells him he'll be serving him now, but Jerry immediately disagrees, showing he's still disobedient. Kai decides to train Jerry himself, saying that after wandering between life and death so many times, he might become more obedient. Fast forward 51,000 years, and Jerry is sleeping peacefully when Kai yells at him to wake up. Jerry jumps up and they greet each other, but Kai punishes him for being too slow. He reminds Jerry that he needs to respond faster. Jerry starts bowing and calls himself a worthless bug crawling on the floor. Fafnir wakes up and Jerry greets her too, calling himself a worthless bug again. This earns him another smack for his slow response. Kai reminds him not to use that language in front of Fafnir, but it's too late. Now Jerry greets Kai by calling him a worthless bug as well, leading Kai to punish him with 500,000 push-ups. After an hour, Jerry finally finishes his punishment. Kai suggests they head back underground to keep filling the encyclopedia, mentioning he wants to test out the new robotic arm he got recently. These are the Divine Seal gloves, which can lower his abilities at will. If he reduces his stats to the minimum, gets beaten up, and then wins, his stats will improve a bit. With that in mind, Kai tells Jerry McCullough to restock supplies and clean the house after 65,000 years. He and Fafnir make their way to floor 700, where there are no trees or rocks, just a blood-red sky. They spot something nearby and wonder if it's a boss monster. It turns out to be a creature that compliments Kai for making it this far, even though it looks like someone with a foot fetish. Kai realizes he can't gauge the enemy's strength because the gloves have lowered his stats. Normally, he could sense the monster's strong bloodlust, but now he's unsure if he should take off the gloves. He worries that if the monster is weak, he'll miss out on experience points. He asks Fafnir what she thinks, but she's too distracted by how tasty the creature looks. Kai questions if she likes chicken, and Fafnir asks if they'll be roasting it. The phoenix overhears this and gets angry when Kai calls it a freakish bird monster. The phoenix yells at Kai for the insult, but he tries to explain that it's just a figure of speech and that he meant it as a food ingredient. This only makes the phoenix angrier, and it vows to never forgive him. Meanwhile, Fafnir pulls out her robotic arms, ready to take on the bird. The phoenix calls her a fool for challenging it and starts attacking her with flames. Fafnir easily dodges and punches the flames away. Then she uses a move called Lion Sky Slash to bring the phoenix down, and with one more hit she slices the bird in half. After landing on the ground in a cool pose, Kai compliments her for finally naming her special move correctly. Fafnir reminds Kai that it's time to cook, and he pulls out his flame sword. Suddenly, the phoenix's body starts burning on its own, and it begins to regenerate. Once fully healed, the phoenix reveals that it's immortal. Just as Fafnir is about to attack again, Kai stops her, laughing and calling the phoenix the best. He feels a thrill and wants to test if the phoenix really is immortal. He plans to pull out all its organs, chop it into tiny pieces, and see how long it's lived. To his shock, after he dices the phoenix into bite-sized chunks, it actually dies. Even though he cooks the phoenix for Fafnir, he can't believe it's not regenerating. When a notification pops up about adding the phoenix to the encyclopedia, Kai punches it in disbelief. He calls the bird a pathetic monster for dying so easily, only to realize he said this in front of Fafnir. Quickly changing his tone, he tells her that using such language isn't okay and reassures her that he only said it to show her what not to do. Fafnir agrees with Kai, calling him lousy, which makes him realize it's too late to change things. With no other option, he calls her a good girl and suggests they head back to their house. Fafnir, now calling him a worthless bug, follows along. Having cleared the trial of the gods, Kai suddenly remembers everything that happened just before the trial began. He recalls being on a journey to the royal capital while being chased by black beasts and a redhead, which led him to stumble into the dungeon called the Trail of the Gods. If he hadn't cleared it, he wouldn't have been able to leave. Luckily, time was frozen inside and outside the dungeon, allowing him to fight countless monsters and form bonds. It took him 100,000 years and 7 days to escape. Noticing Kai's strange behavior, Fafnir comments that her master is acting weird. The former final boss explains that it's normal, since they've just returned to the original world. Despite being the final boss, Eth saw Kai's status and surrendered before the fight even started. Just then, Fafnir mentions that someone is approaching, and to their surprise, it's the same redhead Mo who was chasing Kai earlier. Kai remembers who she is, and even though he recalls Signal being strong, he doesn't look so tough now. Signal notices Kai has company and comments on how both of them are total knockouts. This makes both Kai and Fafnir furious, and they almost turn Signal into paste, but Kai stops them, wanting to handle it himself. He puts on the Divine Seal gloves to help him hold back. Hearing Kai wants to take it easy enrages Signal, who asks if Kai even understands his situation. Before Signal can say more, Kai attacks and breaks all the fingers on his self-pleasuring hand. Signal orders his monsters to attack, but Kai easily takes care of them with his sword technique. He walks toward Signal and uses a move called Brink of Death to turn the remaining monsters into nuggets. The lackeys realize Signal doesn't stand a chance. After tying him up, Kai questions him about his actions, and Signal confesses everything without putting up a fight. Signal reveals that Frankton colluded with the Empire to kidnap the first princess, Rosemary, to execute their plan. The Empire sent ENTs and Signal, which is why the Empire's summoner was wandering in the kingdom. Kai feels compelled to protect Rosemary for some reason, and wonders if he can fight the sword. Emperor Aster questions if Kai is thinking of doing something reckless, and Fafnir notices her master seems excited to start. Kai summons grasshoppers from his encyclopedia to create a distraction for the Empire forces, ordering them to eliminate any targets they find. Countless grasshoppers begin flying around, eating and taking out any hooded figures they encounter. Meanwhile, Rosanna hears the commotion outside and announces that they are under attack, ordering everyone to prepare. When Rosemary asks about the enemies, Rosanna replies that it's the Empire and there's a traitor among them. Rosanna suggests they escape immediately, but runs into Frankton. She quickly realizes he's the traitor, making Rosanna wonder if her brother has betrayed her too. Frankton mentions that if Rosanna becomes the baby maker for the Empire's third prince and Gilbert ascends the throne, their kingdom will be safe. Rosemary argues that if it means harming his own people, he's nothing but a traitor. Arnold appears, telling Frankton he won't allow it, which reassures the girls. He apologizes to Rosemary for being late and tries to attack Frankton, but another person blocks him, saying Arnold is a worthy challenge. This person introduces himself as Zir and suggests a duel to the death. Arnold realizes he is facing the Empire's Sword Emperor and engages him in battle. Santa notices they are evenly matched, but then jinxes Arnold. Out of nowhere, a snake bites Arnold's neck. Zur yells at Ents for interfering, but Ents replies that he's not interested in Zur's pointless hobbies. Zur questions if Ents dares to mock a swordsman's honor, and Ents says he's just following the Emperor's orders. Arnold signals Rosanna to run into the forest, while the enemy is distracted. Before she can escape, a pervy soldier grabs the busty princess, while Rosanna gets captured by a bald guard. The guard asks Ince if he can take Rosanna, and Ince agrees, giving the bald guard a chance for some action. Ince tells Frankton to leave the princess's restraint to him and walks away with Zir. The guard holding Rosemary tells her to watch as Rosanna becomes a woman, making her call for help. Suddenly, the bald guard's head spins 180 degrees, and Kai beheads the guard holding Rosemary. Kai can't believe how easily the head came off, while Rosemary is shocked to see him. As Kai helps Rosemary stand, the Empire soldiers flee from Fafnir, who is having a blast taking them down. Aster reassures Kai to leave the small fries to them, and Rosemary is confused seeing Kai interact with the monsters, as she always heard he was a weakling. Now, it's hard for her to believe he's the one with the so-called useless gift. She notices some smiles sticking to Rosanna's sensitive spots, but Kai quickly clarifies that they aren't enemies. They're his healing slimes. Hearing this, Arnold realizes the numbness is fading and his wounds are healing. Rosemary hugs Rosanna, relieved that her V-card is safe, while Kai praises his slimes for doing a good job. Arnold asks if Kai can summon creatures, and Kai explains it's not exactly summoning. Afterward, he gives Fafnir and the grasshoppers some head pats, but gets distracted when Zur shows up. Zur questions how long it takes to capture one woman, and Rosemary panics seeing him again. Zur notices the sword on Kai's back and realizes there's still a swordsman left, deciding to take him on. He draws his sword and warns Ents not to interfere, or he'll illuminate him for real. Kai notices Zier's stance and feels disappointed. Rosemary warns him to stop because it's dangerous, but he picks up a stick from the ground and tells Zier he's not worth pointing a blade at. This infuriates Zier, who leaps at Kai, only to be blocked by the stick. The fight continues and Rosemary is amazed that Kai is holding his own against the Sword Emperor with just a branch. She asks Arnold why Zier's attacks can't reach Kai, but he's too stunned to answer. Eventually, he explains that their sword skills are on completely different levels, like comparing someone who's trained for ages to a total beginner. It's not just about talent, it's the result of endless training. In the end, Kai disarms Zier and tells him he has potential with the sword, but needs to think about why the previous Sword Emperor trusted him with that title. Kai decides to let him go this time, considering his potential, while Zier runs away in tears. As mentions that Kai is too dangerous and could become a threat to the Empire, so he needs to be eliminated. He summons the Spirit King, allowing it to consume the mana of his subordinates and burn everything to ashes. As the Empire Knights are incinerated, Kai tells the Spirit King that his weak flames can't harm him. He then summons Jerry McCullough to teach the Spirit King a lesson. Jerry crushes the Spirit King underfoot and tells Kai he's honored to be summoned again. After that, Jerry takes the Spirit King into the encyclopedia. Meanwhile, Ents begs Kai for mercy and asks to join the Empire. But without hesitation, Kai cuts him in half, saying there's no value in the words of someone who uses their subordinates as bait. With everything settled, Kai tells Fafnir and Aster that they should leave, but Frankton stops him, trying to convince Kai to serve under the next king, Prince Gilbert, assuring him that the prince would provide a life of comfort. Kai responds that he's not interested, and adds that a royal family that discriminates based on gifts or lineage is nothing but a nuisance. This makes Rosanna yell at Kai for insulting the royal family, and Fafnir and Aster get defensive too. However, Rosanna tells Xana to calm down, saying it's okay. For the first time, she feels like she has someone who shares her views. Instead of relying on royalty or nobility, she believes every citizen should have a say in governance. Kai reminds her that this means giving up her title as a princess, and Rosanna replies that she doesn't mind. She then makes a bold decision, telling Kai she wants to appoint him as her royal guard. Everyone is surprised, and when Rosanna questions if she's really choosing a so-called useless traitor for such an important role, Rosanna explains that there's no one left in the palace she can trust. She believes Kai, who doesn't care about wealth and has strength beyond the Sword Emperor, is the right choice. Rosemary tells Kai that if he accepts, he needs to swear loyalty by kissing her hand. However, Kai decides to keep his cool and opts for a handshake instead, accepting the offer until she finds a proper royal guard. Raph mentions that Kai always seems to find trouble, but Kai thinks that if he sticks with the princess, he might be able to take on even stronger opponents. Later, Rosemary writes a letter to Renna, letting her know that she's heading to the great city of Balls to hand over Frankton. She assures Renna that she's safe and that Kai drove away the Imperial soldiers and is accompanying her. They're currently staying in the post town of Papa, and when Kai asks why they have to stay there for a few weeks, Rosemary explains that it's until Balls is confirmed to be safe. She's also grateful that Kai accepted the role of royal guard, saying that if he had refused, she would have had to appoint Renna instead. This makes Kai think about Rena, who's currently training in the royal capital, and wonder if he felt compelled to protect Rosemary because of his connection to Rena. Rosemary adds that she doesn't want her best friend on a dangerous mission, and Kai agrees, saying he wants to protect his childhood friend too. He reminds her that he's only acting as the substitute royal guard, and Rosemary agrees, saying that if she can ask for one more favor later that day. Meanwhile, Raph, Fafnir, and their dog are sleeping peacefully. When Kai enters the room and yells at them to wake up, Raph wakes up in a hurry, exposing her chest. In the chaos, Aster accidentally drops her blanket, giving Kai a surprise view of her body. Kai is shocked to discover that Aster is a woman, and Fafnir wakes up soon after. Rosemary and Rosanna appear in the room, and Rosemary asks Fafnir to go to town with Kai and look for ingredients to make a cake. Fafnir is excited and asks if Rosemary is making a cake. and Rosemary agrees, saying she'll try her best, even though she's not as good as Kai. Meanwhile, Kai orders his summon, Mia, to protect the princess while they're in town. As the three of them leave for town, Rosanna wonders if it's okay, and Rosemary reassures her that it's fine. Apparently, Papa is a town nestled in the vast silk forest, where hunters from all around the world pass through. It's also a place of freedom, where persecuted beast folk gather. And Kai knows this because his mother used to tell him stories about this town. While he's thinking about registering as an adventurer someday, Aster comments on the commotion in town. Kai decides to check it out and is surprised to see a group of people gathered around something. At a local market, a vendor proudly shows off a popular fruit to Lord Getty, hoping to impress him. But before Lord Getty takes a bite, he signals his magicians to work their magic. They quickly make the fruit look rotten, and when Getty finally tastes it, he throws it down in disgust, declaring it spoiled. He reminds the vendor that he's supposed to pick a gift for Gilbert, and serving rotten fruit is like giving it to Gilbert himself. Getty warns the vendor that he's now made enemies with the Whole Blood Alliance, while the vendor desperately pleads for forgiveness. Just then, someone from the crowd steps up, claiming this isn't right. It turns out to be the leader of one of the 4 sacred guilds, accompanied by his second-in-command. They argue that the townspeople shouldn't be punished, and the second-in-command points out that Gilbert wouldn't want his people to suffer. The leader tells Getty to cool down, and Getty reluctantly agrees, telling the vendor to bring better fruit next time. However, both AOV and Kai can see that the guild leaders are in on the whole scheme. As Kai starts to walk away, Effany spots her dog Fen running off. Meanwhile, a beast folk is getting picked on because his dad's fruit upset Getty. The bullies threaten him, saying they'll never buy from him again. They shove him around and kick him in the stomach, causing one of the fruits to fall and get crushed underfoot. The beast folk feels regret for not being a strong hunter like his dad, wishing he could stand up for himself. Just then, Fen shows up to defend him, and Fafnir Kai also appears, warning Fen not to cause trouble. Fafnir waves at Fen and apologizes for running off. One of the bullies tells Kai to stay out of their business, but Kai quickly takes him down. The other bullies get ready to fight, but their attacks don't faze Kai at all. He decides to leave one of them alive and takes down the rest. When the remaining bully tries to thank him, Kai tells him to thank Ether instead and asks Esther to take Fafnir and the beast folk to Rosemary's place. He then goes back to the last thug, wanting to meet his boss, hinting that the rotten fruit is just part of a bigger scheme in town. Later, Rosemary is baking a cake for everyone when Astaroth tells her that Kai won't be home tonight because he's busy with his investigation. She feels a bit let down since she wanted Kai to try her cake, but Fafnir reminds her that she can always bake another one. Meanwhile, a few kilometers away from Papalo Town, a boy receives a magic beast that tells him to consume everything in its path. Later that day, Santa confronts Kai, furious about his interference in town affairs. She tells him she can't forgive him for putting the princess at risk. Kai starts by apologizing and explains that this whole mess involves nobles linked to the Amelia family, questioning whether the princess would really stay quiet about it. Rosemary chimes in, asking if there's anything she can do to help. Kai tells her to gather people because he's planning to hold a meeting to share information about the beast folk. He begins to explain that the success of Papalo Town relies heavily on the agricultural products from the beast folk. He reveals that some nobles want to take over the farmland, teaming up with guilds looking for fame, and the mayor, who discriminates against the beast folk. They're all working together with thugs who will do anything for cash. Their plan is to drive the beast folk out of town. Apparently, they had a meeting where Getty was praised for his performance. He also mentions that they hired a group of bandits to stage an attack on the town. After that, the Coin Guild will swoop in to save the town from a fake beast folk rebellion, allowing them to capture the beast folk and sell them into slavery. Kai got this intel from a thug who was caught and interrogated by his subordinate Boo, who's really good at getting information. The beast folk are shocked and start to doubt if this is really happening. One beast boy remembers how his parents were overwhelmed by stress and realizes that no one would believe such a horrible truth. Kai pats his head and asks what he wants to do. The Beast Boy says he can't forgive them for using their fruits like that and wants to protect the town from these bad guys. Hearing this inspires the other beast folk, and Kai feels emotional, telling the boy named Shera that this trust comes from the hard work of his family. He encourages Shera, saying it's his strength. Shera tries to thank Kai, but Kai reminds him that it's his town to defend. One of the beast folk points out that many of them are women and children who can't fight. Kai agrees that he could easily take down the bandits, but can't stay in town to protect them forever. He emphasizes that the beast folk need to earn their place through their own strength and promises to support anyone willing to fight for their freedom. Meanwhile, a farmer named Dilma talks about reviving a powerful demon beast and unleashing it on Papalo Town, claiming it would be easy for someone like him. A busty elf named Nail reminds him that the job costs a hefty sum of 100 million ore, urging him to make sure he gets it done. Dilma argues that unlike weak demons, he has no reason to fail, which makes one of his subordinates furious without hesitation. Dilma uses his magic to melt away all the bandits, assuring Nail that they're important sponsors and he won't harm the rest of them. He tells her to leave while he's still in a good mood. Meanwhile, a grasshopper overhears their conversation and rushes back to Kai, warning him that a demon beast is planning to invade the town. This news makes Kai think that they might have caught wind of the situation, so he decides to check on how the beast folk training is going. At the same time, the bandit leader is giving orders, saying they were only supposed to attack the beast folk, but he tells his men to take everything they can find. Just as one of the bandits is about to enter a house, Shera sneaks up behind him and quickly takes him down with one hit. Fen starts cheering for him, and Shera can't believe it, thinking he just did what Kai taught him. A few weeks earlier, Kai's team had run a training camp for the beast folk, slowing down time so they could practice a lot. Kai had explained that the bandits were outnumbered and that if they could master a one-hit technique, they would win easily. Meanwhile, Giddy is praising the mayor for bringing him a fine catch that night, but he gets kicked in the face by her when he tries to grab her. One of the beast folk then tells the mayor that it's payback for messing with their fruits. As the beast folk continue to take down the bandits, Shera starts to feel hopeful that they can actually win. Rosemary is surprised to see that the bandits are weaker than she thought, but Kai warns her that it's still too early to celebrate. When she asks what he means, Kai tells her to stay put and watch. In the town square, the leader of the Coin Guild is accusing the beast folk of attacking the town. Suddenly, Kai shows up with a pile of captured bandits, explaining their plan to everyone. He asks one of the bandits if the Coin Guild told him to attack the town, and the bandit admits it, wondering if they were planning to get rid of the bandits and take the credit for themselves. The sub-leader argues that the townspeople won't believe the bandits, but Kai counters that all the bandits have been caught. If the truth comes out about their betrayal, everyone will react the same way. The Coin Guild leader then turns the blame on Kai, and with the sub-leader they try to attack him with their thorny weapons. But Kai easily grabs their thorns and pulls them toward him, sending them crashing into a wall. The guild members are shocked that their leader went down so quickly. Kai simply says he's just helping those in trouble and offers to lend a hand to the Coin Guild if they want to be heroes so badly.